Hi everyone, I'm Carol Keller, Independent Stampin' Up demonstrator from Illinois in the US, and I'm so happy that you're joining us today on our global SU vlog hop. Remember that after you watch my video, check out the description below to see where you hop to next. Just click on the first link in the list and that will take you to the next hopper. And you'll see in the description also my contact information. And remember to like and subscribe to my channel and click on the bell to be notified when I will be posting a video next. Thanks so much for joining us today. We will get started with the project. I will be featuring the Color and Contour bundle. Remember that when you purchase a bundle, it is at a 10% discount. So I will be using that and featuring some of our brand new in colors in my project today for our annual catalog that goes live tomorrow on May 4th. So I hope you enjoy the project and remember to hop around to the other vlog hop participants. All right, here is the card that I will be making for you today. Again, using that Color and Contour bundle and using several of our in colors as well. This and the ribbon, the card base and the ribbon are soft Succulent. And this is fresh Freesia, this layer, and this one, and the ink here are polished pink. So is the bling uses our in color. Those are our in color rhinestones. So first let me show you the bundle. Here is the stamp set. It is photopolymer, which means it's clear, so you can see right where you're stamping. And it's also one of our distinctive stamp sets, which I love because the stamping is very realistic, and you will see that as we go along. And then along with that is the Scalloped Contours dies. And it comes with a bunch of different layers that you can use for framing or for layers on the card, which I did both of those for tags, that kind of thing. And I cut out all of these so you could see them. This cuts out this image, this one cuts out the flower image. So, and we will be using this one on our project today. But here are the different layers that it cuts out. I will layer them just like they are on here. And this again is our polished pink. This one I really like because there are slits that you can use to slide ribbon through. So I haven't used it yet, but I'm looking forward to doing that. Adds a little easy way to add an embellishment. So those are the 5 dies that come here, and then the scalloped edge. I love it because it has the detail along with the actual edge. So I love that, the stitching detail. So that is a look at the dies. And the stamp set has some wonderful thank you sentiment, but also one if you're ill, which I'll show you because we're going to be using that today. So happy for you, so a congratulations one. So it's a very versatile set. And of course, if you buy the bundle, you will get 10% off. So again, here is our card for today, and we will get started. The first thing I have done is cut out some of those wonderful dies, and I'm going to show you how I did it because we are even using up our scraps today. This one I already cut, but I want to show you how it was originally. I took, since this is an A2 card, I took the die, but I also cut it specifically on a piece of paper that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, which is the size of the card front or the inside of the card. And then I cut it out because we are actually going to use this to layer on the inside. And then we're going to do the same thing with the next layer, and this one I will show you before I cut it out, just so that you know how to layer. So I have my next die, the second largest one in the set, and I'm going to eyeball it to see where the center is. Again, this piece is cut by 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm going to put it down with a piece of washi tape. That's what I did for this layer as well. And I will tell you to beware a little bit when you are taking off the washi tape. Do it very gently because you want to make sure you don't pull off any of the cardstock with it. Ask me how I know. So that's what I'm going to do next, is cut out this piece. And now that I have it cut out, what I also have is the outer layer, and again we're going to use that for the inside. And here is our last layer, which we're going to use for the little tag on the front. And so now that we have almost everything cut out, we need to do some stamping before we do any more cutting. So I have the flower stamp from the Color and Contour set and my Memento black ink pad. And because it's a large stamp, I'm taking the ink pad to the stamp. And I'm going to stamp it toward the top because I want to leave room on the bottom for that tag. And now I'm going to cut it out. But before I do that, I'm going to show you how I lined up the die. You want to make sure that you can see the outline of the stem at the bottom so that you know you have it in the right place. And once you are happy that you can see the outline all the way around, I'd say about like that, then you're going to put a piece of washi tape very carefully over it and then cut it out. So I will be right back while I do that. All right, so I've cut them out and I'm going to set the outline piece aside. And we are going to do a little more stamping. So I'm going to bring in a sheet to stamp on. And I have the flower fill-in stamps from the set, which I'm going to do in polished pink. And this is meant not to fill in exactly, but to be more of a watercolor outline effect. And again, I found that the easiest thing to do is to stand up so that you can see where you're stamping and kind of start with the small bud and line it up a little bit from there. Again, knowing that it's not going to be filled in completely. And then I'm going to put this aside for just a moment and bring in my card base, which is again soft succulent and A2 size card base. And so we're going to do some assembling actually of the inside. We're going to start with the inside. I'm going to move this out of the way for a moment. So we'll be bringing that back in to do a little more stamping. But first I'm going to take the basic white sheet and we're going to just layer it on the inside like that. So I'm just going to put some Stampin' Seal, and it's fine that it doesn't go all the way to the edge because the edge is going to be covered by the layer from the fresh Freesia die cut. And the easiest way is to just sort of line it up against the fold. Like that. And it does overlap a little bit in this case. I might have cut it wrong, and that's all right because I'm going to, we can just slice that off if that does happen. And you will see that the fresh Freesia layer will overlap as well, but that is not going to matter, and it actually makes a pretty look to the card because it peeks through onto the front. But the basic white we don't need, so we're going to get rid of that. All right, and it's easier to adhere this layer because it's so thin. It's going to go right over the top, and it's easier to adhere that with our multi-purpose liquid glue. And because there's so little room there and it may spill out over the edge, which I'm going to try to avoid, but just in case, I have my silicone craft sheet, and all I did was just put little tiny dots at each point of the frame all the way around. And you will see that just a little dot is all you need. I'm going to take the mat out of the way, bring the card in, and then line it up, starting with the top corners and paying attention to that inside edge as well. And it gives you, the glue gives you a minute to make sure that your placement is right. Whoops. And then we're going to press it just until it catches a little bit. It just takes a few seconds. And so we have a little fancy inside, and you'll see there's a little bit where it shows, but I like that look. If you don't, you certainly can cut it off so that it doesn't show, but I thought that was pretty, especially since there's fresh freesia on the outside as well. So we're going to finish our stamping, and we're going to start with the inside. So I'm going to bring in my soft succulent ink pad. We'll put it here. And I have the little outline of the, sorry, hair there, a little outline of the bud with the leaves. So that's why I'm doing it in soft succulent, because I want those leaves to be green. And I'm doing 3 in the corner, overlapping just a little bit. I'm not too concerned about the stem part overlapping. And that is all we need our soft succulent for. And we're going to bring back the polished pink and fill in the buds and do our sentiment. So there is a little filler stamp for the bud. And I'm not doing any masking or anything. I thought it worked well enough this way without it. Perfect. Oops, that's right. And then we need it for the sentiment on the inside, which says, "and better days ahead," and that will make more sense in a minute. Let's move this away again. So our inside is done. And for the outside, while we have the ink pad, we're going to stamp the outside sentiment as well. Again in polished pink. And normally I stamp first and then cut out, but it just made it easier today to cut out first and then do all the stamping. But I do kind of recommend you stamp first and then cut out. And now we will continue with our assembly on the front. So we don't need this anymore. Oh yes, we do, that's right. One more thing is we're doing just a little bit of coloring with the Stampin' Blend. We're using the light soft succulent Stampin' Blend, and I used it to color in the leaves. And I'm using the bullet point just because the spaces are small. And we're just going to color those in a little bit. We're not going to worry about shading or anything like that, because again, there's small spaces, but it just adds that little bit of color. And I added some there. And now we can take our paper away and finish our assembly. So for the top piece, I'm just using my Stampin' Seal. And before we put the next piece on, we're going to put some soft succulent ribbon. And I'll show you the way I cheated to make that. It's not all tied into one bow. We're going to lay it down just across this section right below that leaf on the left-hand side. So I'm just going to cut it a little bit longer than the frame and use a glue dot to adhere each end onto the back. And now we're going to layer this again with the Stampin' Seal. And then for this piece, I use Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'm going to offset it a little bit so that some of that fresh freesia shows through. Actually, I think we'll put down a little glue dot there just to hold that in place. But again, I'm going to bring in my dimensionals for this, and I've got the mini dimensionals that I'm going to use on the leaf pieces, or the leaf sections, and even that I'm cutting in half because I think it's just a little too wide otherwise. And we're going to put one on each leaf section. with our regular glue dots on the top. And so again, I'm tucking it under the ribbon and then offsetting it, which is why you don't need any adhesive on the bottom, and just offsetting it just a little bit so that fresh freesia shows through. Isn't that pretty? And our sentiment is going to go on the bottom, just with some Stampin' Seal. And now we're going to make a bow. So the way I did it here was just to make a bow and then lay it on top, because I find that's easier. It's easy to tie it off the roll rather than trying to tie it around that section of cardstock. I just make a loop and bring it around, and I can play until I make it the size I want and make sure that it's shaped correctly. It's so much easier, I find, to do it this way. And I will say, make sure that you pull the knot tight. One of the versions I did, the knot was too loose and I ended up taking it off and redoing it. And we'll cut it at an angle. And then just layer it on the card with glue dots. And I find I always put one behind the knot, but then we're also going to layer some behind the bows, or the loops of the bows, and the tails, to make sure that it's not going to move and then not going to, of course, come apart. So those I'm just going to use with my fingernail. And I am going to do a little bit right close to where the knot is so that it doesn't show, but to make sure that loop too, it puts the loop where I would like it. And then it keeps it from untying because the tails are knotted down. One underneath there. And then it helps hold down the section behind, and there you go. We're all set with that. The only thing we have left is, of course, bling, because a card would not be complete without it. So I'm using the small rhinestones, soft succulent, the fresh freesia, and the polished pink. And our card is complete. All right, I hope you like that. Thanks for joining us today on our Global SU Vlog Hop, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.